The 1960s were a decisive decade in human history. The world lived under the Cold War, when two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, competed in almost everything: politics, culture, science, and even lifestyle. But the most interesting part is that despite the global rivalry, people in these countries lived completely different lives. Let's look at 10 key differences between America and the USSR in the 1960s. The main symbol of the decade was the space race. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin orbited the Earth and became a hero around the world. This flight elevated the prestige of the USSR to incredible heights. The Americans felt they were falling behind, but invested billions into the Apollo program. In 1969, Neil Armstrong took the first step on the moon. For Americans, this was proof of technological leadership. For Soviets, it was a blow to national pride. Space became the arena of ideological struggle. Whoever flew further would become the leader of humanity. America in the 1960s was overflowing with cars. A car was not a luxury, but part of everyday life. The Ford Mustang became an icon of the era, and the road network allowed Americans to travel across the entire country. In the USSR, owning a personal car remained a dream. To buy a Moskvich or a Volga, one not only had to save money, but also wait in line for years. For most Soviet families, the main means of transport remained buses, trams, and trains. In America, the car was a symbol of freedom. In the USSR, a symbol of status. In the US, the 1960s were an explosion of musical revolution. Elvis Presley, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, names that defined an entire generation. Young people listened to rock and roll, went to concerts, and gathered in clubs. In the USSR, music also played an important role, but in a different way. Popular were ensembles and bards such as Vysotsky or Okudjava. Many of their songs spread underground, recorded on tapes. Western rock was considered ideologically harmful, yet it gave Soviet youth the feeling of a different world behind the Iron Curtain. America experienced a suburban boom. Millions of families bought houses in suburbs with green lawns, garages, and several bedrooms. This was the American dream in action. In the USSR, the 1960s marked the beginning of mass construction of Khrushchevkas. These were modest apartments with small kitchens and narrow hallways, but they felt like paradise for those who had lived in barracks or communal flats. The American house symbolized comfort, the Soviet Khrushchevka, hope for a new life. In the US, the 1960s saw the first computers appear, television became color, and household appliances like washing machines and refrigerators were accessible to most families. In the USSR, technology also developed, but more slowly. A television was still a luxury, and color broadcasting appeared only by the end of the decade. Many Soviet families still used kerosene stoves and washed clothes by hand. In America, technology made life easier. In the USSR, it remained rare and precious. America set the tone for global fashion. Levi's jeans, miniskirts, bright suits, and freedom of self-expression. Hippies with their colorful shirts became a symbol of protest against the system. In the USSR, clothing was practical and uniform. Jeans could only be bought on the black market, and they cost a fortune. Soviet youth copied Western style as best they could, sewing bell-bottoms, drawing emblems on jackets. In the US, clothing was a way to stand out. In the USSR, a way to touch the forbiddens. Americans lived in a market of abundance. Supermarkets were full of products, advertising pushed people to buy, and credit cards started conquering the market. In the USSR, the situation was different: queues, shortages, and limited assortment. Yes, prices were stable and jobs guaranteed, but the choice was poor. A Soviet store and an American supermarket were two different worlds. One embodied plenty, the other equality in scarcity. American teenagers skated, went to parties, listened to rock, discussed politics, and protested against the Vietnam War. Young people felt their voices mattered. In the USSR, Students joined construction brigades, did sports, and participated in community cleanups. Their lives were tied to ideology and the collective. Freedom of self-expression was almost absent, but there was a strong sense of unity. America took pride in democracy, although the country went through crises: the civil rights movement, Kennedy's assassination, and protests against the war. People took to the streets and could openly express disagreement. In the USSR, censorship and information control reigned. Newspapers and television showed only what fit the party line. Any criticism of authority could lead to problems. For Americans, free speech was a right. For Soviets, it was a dream. America loved baseball, basketball, and football. These sports became mass shows, filling entire stadiums. In the USSR, the focus was on Olympic sports. Soviet hockey players and gymnasts brought home gold medals and confirmed the status of a superpower. Sports in the US were entertainment. In the USSR, they were an instrument of ideology and national prestige. Two countries, one decade, but such different destinies. The US built consumer culture, suburbs, and show business. The USSR built Khrushchevkas, launched the first cosmonauts, and lived under shortages. America gave people freedom of choice. The USSR gave people a sense of collective mission. In the 1960s, these differences became especially clear, and the world realized the Cold War was not only politics, it was a clash of two ways of life.